Okay, if you're interested in moving to France, immigrating to France, and you're looking to do it on the VLSTS long visitor visa, this video is for you. So we just had a big day today. We went to the prefecture for the first time. Specifically, we went to OFI, O-F-I-I, and that is the office that relates to, essentially, it's immigration and integration is what the two I's stand for at the end, Office Français. And so if you have been following along or you know anything about this type of visa, first of all, there's two types of visas for visitors, like a tourist. The first one is VLST, which we started on. That is a 1-year non-renewable visa. It's easy, cheesy peasy. There's nothing to do. You basically show up. The visa that you've been given serves as your resident card temporarily for that year, and then it's bye-bye. We're on the TS, which is the one you need in order to get things like social security number and healthcare, although I'm going to get to that in a minute, though. This is kind of interesting. I had many very interesting conversations today, and I learned a lot, I think. I might have just got more confused. But anyway, it's a little bit more logistic with this TS visa, the VLSTS, because you have more things you have to do when you get here, but it is renewable. So if you're looking like us towards long-term citizenship and you're trying to stack your residence years, then that's the one you're going to want if you're not getting the other types, which are like ones that allow you to work or other things like that. So earlier, some months ago, when we first got on our new visa, the TS, our second one, which was the TS, we went and validated the visas online. So that's the first thing you have to do is you have to validate your visa. Then the next step is you need to schedule your visit, your medical, organized medical visit. And that's what we just did today. So you basically go down to the prefecture and then you sit there and then they meet with you and they ask you a bunch of questions. You fill out a very interesting questionnaire while you're in the waiting room, which asks you many personal questions mostly about your mental health, which is interesting. I think it was like 25, 30 questions, mostly about mental health. But you don't put your name on it. It's almost like a survey. So that's a bit strange. So I had a very interesting conversation out in the waiting room before we got there, because we had our daughter with us because we have another issue, which is the fact that our daughter does not have the right visa. And so we were like, well, while we're here, we wanted to find out if we can get her to the equivalent visa, because we have TSs, which are the renewable ones. She still has been given twice now the T. And it seems to be, and I thought, like, that's kind of weird. Like, did they make a mistake? Or now I'm starting to think they didn't make a mistake. And I literally do not know if there is such a thing. If anybody out there has a VLSTS visa for a minor child, I would love to have you comment about it and tell me that, because from what they're telling me there, I am feeling so gaslit right now, either gaslit or just like I'm in some plane of hell here with French administrative BS. But anyway, I've got l'assurance maladie saying that I have to get my daughter the TS visa. I've got the prefecture saying that that's not possible and that she can only get a T and that she has to get a document DCEM card. And then I've got l'assurance maladie saying, and then other people saying, well, that's not going to give you, DCEM isn't going to give you a social security number, so she's still not going to be able to get healthcare, because l'assurance maladie for the carte vitale says you have to have a social security number, even if she doesn't have a carte vitale, because she doesn't get that until she's 16 on her own. In order to go under my number, she has to have the social security number, and they're saying you can't get the social security number. So it's like mind-boggling, and I cannot get anyone to agree between these offices. But okay, I digress. But that's real. Like, that's what's happening right now. This is the kind of thing that just, it happens. And anyway, back to the normal, like, you're on a TS with an adult. That was all related to having a child. Okay. So if you have a child, that's relevant. Otherwise, if you're just an adult with this, don't worry about it. And then so we had the medical visit, and things you bring for that medical visit are, they tell you to bring a bunch of things. So you have to bring essentially what's called the convocation, which is like your ability to have this interview, the request. So here I'll show you that. Okay, so I blotted out the personally identifiable info here, but essentially this is what you get to get the appointment. This is what it'll be a result when you go online to schedule it on their website, on the OFI website. And that is, by the way, OFII.fr. So they tell you that you need to bring this convocation form, which is this form, and then but they never even asked us to hand it over to them. And you're supposed to bring your passport, your vaccination card, any recent pulmonary radiology, x-rays, and then your hospital records, your glasses if you wear them, and then your Well, let's see. Oh yeah, so basically your maternity card, if you're pregnant, you have to bring this other card, whatever that is. I'm not currently pregnant, so I didn't have to worry about that, nor is my wife. So anyway, and then if you can't show up at the appointment, they just say you just let us know as soon as possible. So this is what we did. Very interesting conversation. So first out in the outer foyer, I had this other conversation with like the receptionist person where we were going back and forth, and she's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You got to get the DCA and blah, blah. Anyway, so I'll follow up on that one later on and let you guys know what happened, but I'm still just in the middle of that craziness. But talking to this woman who we sat down with, like at first I was going to be very like Seinfeld soup Nazi about this. I was going to be like, cause it's like the prefecture and I don't know what it's going to be like. And it's kind of scary, but the woman ended up she was very French, and she was, but because I was able to speak French, I think she treated me differently. I could tell. And then she was like treating my wife who doesn't speak French. But it was very interesting. Like first we went through the questionnaire and she asked a few questions. I'm not telling you don't have to bring all this stuff. Bring everything it says, right? Because I don't want to be the one that tells you they're not going to check it and then they will. But they checked hers. They did check her hospital immunization records. They did look at that. But then they just asked me like, well, is it the same for you? And I said, yes. So they didn't really have to check that, but they did not check. They did not they didn't ask for proof of address or anything, which I thought they would need. They didn't say that on there, but somebody else had told me to bring that. So it was pretty quick and simple, honestly. They do check your vaccination records, and then they give you that lovely survey. Other than that, they ask a few other questions. You should be prepared. Know your size, your height, and your weight in kilos and meters. So that would be, because that's something you're going to be asked. So you should know that. Other than that I think they asked if we had any other major medical issues, which the answer was luckily no. So that was all pretty straightforward. Then that was a third of the time. The next 2/3 of the time spending with her was kind of a little jousting back and forth with, I don't know. We got on the topic of, she was talking about life in the United States versus life in France, and like how cities are built and how that affects things, and back and forth. And it was funny because she was kind of like presenting this, she was presenting both sides of the argument, but she was being very argumentative in both ways, which is very French. I've gotten used to this. They like to test you out a little bit and challenge you on whatever your assertion is, even if ultimately they agree with it. Sometimes you get challenged, which I don't mind at all. I'll argue all day. The first one thing she said was because my wife and I both take thyroid medication, which is super common in California. I can't speak for other states, but it's very common to be on thyroid medication. She was like, oh, that's very strange for a man. It's common with women, but not at all with a man. I'm like, not men I know. I know tons of men are taking supplemental thyroid medication, in the United States. And she's like, no, that's very strange. And then she's like, it's not a supplement. It's a medication. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I have a prescription for it. Just I know. Why are you telling me this? Just very opinionated. She was nice. She was very opinionated. She's like, oh, I know you Americans love your supplements. I'm like, kind of true. Not me taking 20 supplements every morning. Then we got into a discussion about why life is better in Nice. And I said to her, well, I like the life better here. And she's like, talk to me in a few years and tell me if you still feel the same. I was like, okay, snap, wow. But then she went on to say all these things that are better about life in France. And I was like, yeah, I agree, Deco. And we're speaking in French the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. So she's then making the other side of the argument. So, and whatever. It was an interesting conversation. And I didn't have to treat her like the soup Nazi, which I appreciated. Anyhow, after all that, this is what you get at the end, is your Certificat de Contrôle Médical. This is a document that you will get in duplicate. There's 2 copies. One copy is for you, and the other copy is going to be for the prefecture when you go to renew your VLSTS visa, which you can do. You can schedule an appointment no more than 2 months before. So you should try to schedule the appointment a month, 3 months before, maybe 2.5 months, and then you can set the appointment for within that 2-month window, is what she told me. So this is what we got at the end. This is the certificate, and make sure there's 2 copies. Make sure you keep the prefecture one and give that to them later, and this one is for you. Intéressez-vous.